Hi guys, this is Aylin. Welcome to Thoughts with Aylin. Today we're going to have a very, very explicit episode, so please wear your earmuffs if you are sensitive to profanity and strong opinions, because I don't give a fuck and I'm just going to say whatever the fuck is on my mind. And if you're listening, it's because you're interested and you probably feel the same way that I do. You just don't want to say anything because you might be maybe shy, or maybe you just don't really know too much and you don't want to look dumb, so you don't want to say too much. And that's totally okay, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to just speak my mind for you, right? So today we're going to talk about where we left off yesterday. I was talking about IVF in my first episode. If you haven't watched it, that was what we ended with. But actually, yesterday's episode was about Christianity and science and how it's parallel to each other in the same way. It's like kind of like a string theory, right? But go ahead and check it out if you haven't. Just kind of give you a good observation of kind of where we're going with our podcast. So anyways, for today, we're going to talk about birth control and how that affects women, and how we're going to talk about women's bodies. As a woman, I love my fellow sisters, women, and we're going to talk about how birth control really messes up your hormones, what we can do to solve these issues, to solve the issue of the IVF epidemic. We're going to call it that because it has become an epidemic. Everyone wants to buy a baby now. Everybody wants to create their own baby. This is not the fucking Sims on your iPad. All right? You don't get to go fucking create a fucking trait and play fucking God. You're not God. Okay? So sit the fuck down. Put your $25,000 back in your pocket. Why don't you go ahead and just be patient? And honestly, you have to get that God, everyone in this world has a mission, has a purpose, and not everyone's purpose is to be a mother. Okay, maybe your purpose is to be a stepmother. Maybe your purpose is to be a wonderful aunt. And this goes over a lot of women's heads, especially the ones that cannot have kids. To say, well, but you are somebody in somebody's life, and there's a reason why this happened. Okay. We talked about in the last episode about Sarah with Hagar, and how she was impatient, she was barren, and tried to play God, and then she ended up getting pregnant after, right? But it was just a big shit show, right? So all she had to do was just leave it to God. Like I said, not everybody's title is to be a mother or a father. That's why a lot of people that are mother and fathers, their titles don't align with their actions, right? That's why there's a lot of deadbeat moms and deadbeat dads, because even though you birthed the child, even though you gave birth to the child, you were meant to be a mother in the biological aspect, because that child is going to make a change. Does that make sense? It's not because you were meant to be a mother. You know what I mean? So when you're in that position where you're like, oh my God, and take it from me, I try to have kids. I went to a fertility specialist. I was told that I couldn't have children. Literally was told I was infertile, and I gave up. And I met my husband, and, now we have 2 kids. So it's great. It's wonderful, right? Anyways, enough about me. We're going to talk about birth control. So the first time you hear the word birth control in your life as a woman is probably when you're about 14 to 15, 16 years old. Usually around the time where your parents and your doctors, medical professionals, start to ask you questions about your sexual life, if you have one, right? If when you're a teenager, you just never know, right? So they say this is birth control is going to help prevent pregnancy. It's going to help prevent things that are unwanted for the person, for the girl, the woman, right? As a mother and as a woman, I would never give my daughter birth control. And not because I would want my daughter to get pregnant. Of course not, right? Anything can happen, like I said, by the grace of God. But think about it. Birth control causes hormone changes. You get the double shot, you've gained 100 pounds when you were a size 0, and you don't know how that happened. Now you have heart issues. And I don't know, you have a lot of stuff. Or you have the little chip on your shoulder, and now you're getting like an infection, and they can't take it out because whoever put it in, you don't know where they're at. Or maybe you have the IUD, and it's giving you issues down there, and now you could potentially have some kind of cancer, or maybe okay, right? So it's always a maybe. It's never 99.9 100% sure, right? So I feel if you can't get a tattoo at 18, before 18, you shouldn't have a child before 18, okay? This is just common sense, right? We need to protect our daughters. Women, listen to me. Protect our daughters from becoming barren women and becoming an object in this country to be monetized and objectified. Okay? Listen to what I just said. Protect your daughters, protect yourselves, protect your women, your sisters, your mothers. Protect your daughters first and foremost, because they're our next generation, from being barren and becoming an object to this country to be monetized. Your womb is being monetized. Okay, are you listening to what I'm saying? People pay for a baby to be lab created for a surrogate. When you democratic liberal people are out here on these streets protesting for feminism, do you know that when you are promoting abortion, and we're going to talk about that too, that when you are promoting birth control and you're promoting that type of shit, like my body, my choice stuff, it's not uplifting. It's not I go for feminism. It's actually against it. They're monetizing our wombs. It's been happening. You have to pay you owe $30,000 to give birth to your child that is supposed to be a blessing from God. And now our society has made it become a burden. It made it become a debt into our life, into a burden. To take away the value that it's a blessing from God, to take away the credit of God that it's a blessing from God. Now your wombs are being monetized. You cannot say men are objectifying me when you're objectifying your own body. My thoughts on teen pregnancy. I do not condone it. I know, some people, it can or cannot be prevented. It's a controversial topic, right? But I do think I have the right solution for preventing teen pregnancy, guys. I think that I have solved the fucking problem that no one has been able to solve. And I might just blow your mind with this. I know it's taking me 8 minutes to get through it. But so if we really cared about the women, right, everybody? Because even the men are turning into women, right? Why don't we show how much we care about the women by giving the boys or the men vasectomies? Okay, hear me out. I know you're thinking, this bitch is nuts. No, I'm not. When you give a child birth control, when you give a teenager birth control who is still developing, her hormones are still developing, they haven't even fully developed, okay? And by the time, if they're taking birth control from 15, by the time they're 25, 10 years, their genetic field has completely done a 180 when it comes to their fertilization hormones, okay? You have fucked them kids up. So by the time that this woman wants to have children, right? They can't have kids. Suddenly the woman is barren. Suddenly the woman is infertile or is having issues. So what happens next? IVF, right? Then IVF happens. Now you got to buy your baby. And you got to pay to birth the baby. So now you're being monetized. Your body is being monetized. Now you're objectifying your own body. You can't sit here and say, we are being objectified by these men. You are objectifying your own body because you're taking this shit. Okay? The way to solve it is to give our boys vasectomies. Vasectomies for young teen boys are reversible. I believe that they should be reversed once there should be a law, and this would prevent children from being born out of marriages. This would prevent children dying in the hands of people that should not have children. This would prevent human trafficking. This would prevent teen pregnancy. This would prevent just unwanted children or anything of that kind. This would actually help our society grow and help our society grow so we're not in poverty. You know, like this could actually help the minority community the most, right? The minority communities that are overpopulated, that have low income. These things, I believe that Medicaid and the government should pay for these things. Instead of them paying for birth control for our daughters to ruin their hormones, so later on, 15 years, they cannot have children. So they cannot have children, then they have to pay to give birth to a child to have a child. Now, I want you to know something. You know that the women carry mitochondrial DNA, right? You know that the only way to pass lineage is through a woman? Did you know that the only way to continue the human species is through a woman? So when you're giving our daughters birth control that are going to be the next generations, and every fucking year there's more and more barren fucking young women, this is what Satan has been wanting from the beginning of time. Okay? Because he knows, and he's been wanting to do this for a very long time, since Mary gave birth to Jesus. Because he's like, I know that he knows that if he destroys the woman, he destroys another possibility for another prophet like Jesus to come into our world, our life, to teach us what is right. Listen to what I just said. This is all Satan's work. You don't need birth control. You don't even need birth control. So yeah, vasectomy for boys, I think would be perfect. I feel like they could reverse it once they get married or they hit a certain age past whatever, you know, like if you get married, I believe that you should be able to reverse it once you get eloped, and then bam, you can have kids. And that way it prevents, like out of wedlock marriage, right? And it actually would, I feel like, encourage the people to get married, right? So they can be able to have kids, right? And so it would also prevent absent fathers, right? Because then it wouldn't be up to the woman to make the choice to get rid of the baby, because there would be no baby, because the men have been, had a vasectomy. And so it'll give more like ball in the park to the man, in a sense where it's not like, oops, it was an accident. It's like, when I'm physically, mentally ready to have children, I know I can go and get this procedure done and do it. There's no such thing as trapping. There's no such thing as deadbeat fathers. There's no such thing as deadbeat mothers. Like, this solves everything, right? This will prevent teen pregnancy as well. And it will encourage the people to get into a traditional marriage, to elope and have a family, right? So anyways, vasectomy doesn't harm versus birth control does harm. There's a reason why a woman cannot tie her tubes and then get a reverse and then automatically get pregnant right away. It does take some time, and it's almost like not always working. It almost doesn't always work. So the best thing would be vasectomy, right? And it doesn't harm the child. It doesn't change their hormones to do that. It doesn't affect the male in any sort of kind of way to give them a vasectomy. It doesn't mess up their hormones. It doesn't make them any more moodier. It won't do any of that. Versus when a young lady is being given birth control and all these types of different hormones and stuff, and then you get put in a situation as a child. A 13-year-old should not have to make a decision whether she needs to take birth control or not. That's an adult decision. So why are we putting our children in adult predicaments, right? What needs to happen is that all these boys need to have a vasectomy. Every single one of them. Protect your girls by protecting your sons. Okay? It's so simple. And I feel like this would be a really good solution to a lot of the like marital, custodial, family issues, or like just matters like that, I feel like the government created this plan to do this, to create this IVF thing throughout the years, because I don't think it was from night to day. It has been ongoing for a long time. And they did this because they wanted to, like I said, monetize our body and take away what was a blessing from God and monetize it, right? And then also get rid of the woman lineage, because the humans will only keep being humans, continue to keep reproducing and populating if there's women, right? That's why they're trying to make our boys turn into women and say, you're a woman. Everybody knows that if that were to really happen and all these men hypothetically turn into women, because it's impossible, and did all these hormone exchanges, they're messing up these men's hormones doing that. I just believe vasectomies is a solution. Vasectomies on teenage boys would be the solution to teen pregnancy and any other things, including anything but not limited to STDs. Obviously, you cannot stop them from doing anything, but it would prevent teen pregnancy. It would prevent children out of the marriage or before marriage. And it would encourage young adults to be eloped versus not, because it would encourage them to want to build a family or have a child, right? It will also take away the responsibility of a young woman, teen woman, to make adult decisions on whether what she needs to do with her body, because that should not be a decision that should be made by her. It's a decision that has already been made by God, and I would also like to add that for the moms that are in here listening and you have boys and you're like, I would never do that. Well, let me break it down for you, sweetheart. So you're not okay with giving your child a vasectomy, a boy, right? To ensure that he doesn't have any unwanted children when he's still developing, right? Or gets trapped in a situation where he does not need to be in, right? But you will circumcise your son the moment that it comes out of the womb. But that's okay. So a lot of people say, well, that's going to hurt my son if I get a vasectomy. That's so inhumane to do to a child. Well, what do you think you do when your baby's born? You have a son and they ask you want to circumcise and you say yes. It's also a surgical procedure. What is the difference? I would love to tell you the difference, but it's probably too explicit to say, and it's probably not something that you might want to hear, because it's another unveiled truth that it's part of the Torah. We'll talk about that some other day, which is a Jewish book, like a Jewish biblical book, and they talk about circumcision and all that stuff, and they mention, I don't want to talk about it, but if you have circumcised your son, your ass needs to go and get this little boy a vasectomy at the age of peak puberty. Okay, because there's no reason why a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old teenage girl should be worried about getting pregnant, should be worried about having to make an adult decision of, oh, there's an option to kill my child or get rid of my kid, or what if the dad leaves? Why are the boys or the men always off the hook, right? So how can we prevent all of that where no one would be at fault? I think all parents should take full responsibility for that. You don't want your son to come to get any little girl pregnant. Get his little ass a vasectomy. And when his ass gets older and decides that he wants to marry, perfect. Mind you, God frowns upon kids that are born out of marriage. I was one of those children, right? So he wants people to traditionally marry and have children and do that. He wants households together. Birth control encourages young girls to have sex. It lets them know it's okay. It's not okay. In the eyes of God, it's not okay. It happens, yes, right? Sometimes you cannot stop it. But if you can prevent something from happening without causing harm to anyone, why not do it? Why not just get your son a vasectomy? Right? Or as far as for your daughter, you don't even have to give her birth control. If all the boys in America had a vasectomy, we wouldn't have to worry about giving birth control to our girls. We wouldn't have to worry about, obviously, crime's still going to happen. And, people are horrible. And some people rape women, right? And they'll have a rape child, right? And that's one of the controversial things about abortion, right? It's like, well, how can you say you don't support abortion? What if somebody rapes you and you get pregnant? Okay, well, that would be solved if the man would have had a vasectomy at the age of fucking 12. And you can, before you even think about having children, you can know whether you want the children. Like, it's crazy to me that as a mother, like as mothers that have sons, I mean, I don't have a son, but if you're a mother and you have given birth and you have had a son, why would you see the pain of childbirth, right? Why? And half the time, it's single moms. Like I get it. It's not something that like you want to do, right? And I get it. You're a mother, right? Think about it like this, especially if you're a single mom of boys. This is the irony of all of this shit, okay? And I would hope that you single moms read through this of boys. So like, as I'm saying, like you single moms that have boys, okay? If the man is absent and you have boys, your job is to try to raise the best boys you can, to be nothing like the father, right? It is statistically proven that children that are born in a household with an absent parent turn out to be absent fathers themselves as well. Why would you want that for any other girl, even if it's your son? Why would you not want to protect your sons, right? And it's not just like a punishment for boys. This is actually, I think it's more like a reward for men, because even nowadays, there's a lot of men and young boys and even 20, 30 years ago that were trapped at a young age. Teen pregnancy was at a high stake, which is why in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, adoption was a big thing because of teen pregnancy, because nobody was doing anything to actually prevent it. Why is it that vasectomy is only allowed, or not only allowed, but why is it that a vasectomy is only done by a man after he has all the kids that he don't even fucking want? Why? Why did it take you having 6 kids for you to realize that you're a shitty dad, a horrible person, an absent father, and now you want to get a vasectomy? How about we stop this from the get and we get all our boys vasectomies at 12, 13 years old? It's going to hurt them, but you know what's going to hurt more? Them coming in with a little teen girl walking in your house pregnant. Seeing your son be a young father as a teen, struggling like you did when you tried your hardest to give them a better life so they didn't have to deal with what you dealt with, right? So these are just my thoughts. I think that this will solve a lot of problems. But of course, the government, they don't want this. Nobody wants this because they can't get any money out of it. They can't monetize off of it. They monetize women. They created this thing called feminism. And they say, go to work. You're a strong woman. You take care of your sons. And the cycle is going to continue because your sons are going to grow up and they're probably going to do the same thing because what they see is what they will do. And it's just a statistic, but it's very true. And it's ugly to say. The way to stop is to completely stop it. You can raise your kids however you want. Your kids are going to do whatever they want once they grow up. They see the things, they see the daily, they're going to make their own choices, right? And usually around the time where they start to rebel is around the teenage years, where they really start thinking that they're adults, right? And they're making adult choices with a child mentality. So your job as a parent, as a guardian, as the adult, is to make an adult choice for the child that is thinking that they're going to make adult choices with their child mentality. And that is the issue that a lot of people are having with teen pregnancies. They say, oh, well, my body, my choice, I'm going to keep the baby, or I'm going to have an abortion. Abortion shouldn't even be a fucking thing. There wouldn't even be abortion. It wouldn't even be a fucking word in the dictionary if boys had vasectomies from the get. There's literally no scientific harm that proves, there's nothing that proves scientifically that it'll harm the boy in the long run. Make it make sense. Anyways, these were Thoughts with Aylin today. Thank you for coming to my show. As you can hear, my baby's crying in the background, so I got to tend to my mommy duties. And word of advice, 202 is wild. But anyways, I do have a YouTube channel. If you guys want to go ahead and subscribe, it's at Thoughts with Aylin. I'm going to go ahead and post, this is episode 2, and we're going to go ahead and post this on YouTube as well. If you guys want to go ahead and subscribe and write comments. I also have it on Spotify and Apple Podcast, Anchor.fm. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow me on Spotify, maybe rate my podcast 5 stars, maybe even write some comments about what you have heard so far from my first episode and my second episode, and see if there are any things that maybe come to your attention, any thoughts or ideas, or maybe even questions or concerns. You can go ahead and write them in the comments, and I would be so happy and excited to dive right into it, do some research for you, and make a new episode for you, so you can go ahead and stay tuned. So I do write my notes. The way I formulate my episodes is, I wake up, I pray to God, I talk to him at night, and then I ask him to talk to me in my dreams, to give me signs and messages throughout the day. I write them down, and it's very creepy. Sometimes they happen to the T. Sometimes I have dreams very vividly. Anyways, we'll get into that in another episode about clairvoyance and the gifts of God and discernment and all that good stuff. In the meantime, thank you so much for coming to Thoughts with Aylin. I wish you guys all the best, and thank you for your support and listening. God bless you. Bye-bye.